And today we're going to do WWE wrestlers and the sports teams they represent. We're going down a weird rabbit hole. Before we get started, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Put that bell on for notifications. That is everything the Mr. Test channel. Now, on to the video. All right, so we are going to start off with arguably some people's greatest of all time, John Cena. Now, John Cena could be many sports teams, but for me, one that comes to mind automatically is the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, not recently, but have won so many championships. They are like arguably one of the most popular NFL teams on the planet. And the one thing that John Cena and the Dallas Cowboys really, truly have in common is the fan base is annoying as hell. Like, if a nuclear bomb dropped tomorrow, the only thing that would survive is Dallas Cowboy and John Cena fans. True, grill me in the comments. I don't care. But John Cena is our Dallas Cowboys. Oh, okay. We're going over to AEW with Maxwell Jacob Friedman, or MJF. Now, this one I find a little funny because MJF's not been around in a while, for a long time. But what I do find with MJF is he's just come out of nowhere in the past 5, 7, 10 years and really just exploded onto the scene in AEW. He's backed by a very rich Middle Eastern style family. He's winning a bunch of titles. He's allowed to virtually do what he wants and get away with everything. MJF is Manchester City. Seriously, who was really a Manchester City fan 10 years ago before they got all the money? Outside of AEW, MJF would not be able to get away with the things he gets away with. And with how much money Manchester City has, they can virtually do what they want. So MJF is Manchester City. We are sticking with AEW, with the man himself, CM Punk. We've seen CM Punk's return recently. We've seen the Chicago crowd's reaction and super happy he's back. We saw Forbidden Door's reaction that really did not support CM Punk whatsoever. CM Punk is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Massive support system in Toronto, but outside of Toronto, nobody likes the Leafs. And again, they have massive championships back in the day, but CM Punk's arguably not going to win anything of substance anytime soon. But you can be great in the ring but never get over that hump. CM Punk, you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. Back to WWE with one of the most lovable wrestlers on the roster, that is Kofi Kingston. And now listen, I had to really think about one that was Kofi. Everything that Kofi represents, everything that Kofi has done with the New Day and Kofi Mania, and the only thing that could come to mind was the Jamaican bobsled team. Listen, now hear me out. It's not just because when Kofi came to WWE, he had some really random Jamaican accent that Triple H called him out for in the middle of the ring because he wasn't using it randomly. No, Kofi is the Jamaican bobsled team for one reason and one reason only. He did a really cool thing and had Kofi Mania and won the big time the one time, and has virtually done nothing else without being in a group like the New Day. The Jamaican bobsled team did this once already. They won it back in the 80s and they've been really good, but individually they're not really that kind of good in the skeleton. If you look at it, the Jamaican bobsled team is better in a group, and so is Kofi. All love Kofi. Please bring back the Jamaican accent. Next, we have Canada's favorite son, mostly, Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, this one was one where I'm like, okay, we got to think about someone who was the excellence of execution. He's the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. But that was in the 90s, and nobody really believes that anymore. There's only one team I could think of, and that was Manchester United. Now, before all the Manchester United fans come for me, considering I'm a Liverpool Liverpool fan, I have a reasoning. Bret Hart was arguably one of the best professional wrestlers in the 90s, and Manchester United was arguably the best professional football team through the 90s into the early 2000s. But here's my gripe with this. Manchester United fans and Manchester United still believe they're the best to do it, and you really haven't done anything in the better part of a decade. Yes, okay, you qualified for Champions League this year. Great job. But Bret Hart, when you cut your promos now and you do your interviews, you kind of just living in the past and kind of miserable. And I just kind of thought, you know, Manchester United fans are kind of the same way. So Manchester United and Bret Hart. I am going to get in a lot of trouble for that one, but we're going to run with it. All right, on to our next one. Mustafa Ali. This one was difficult because I needed to be very specific on what I said and careful with what I said. But I went with the Ottawa Senators hockey team. Yeah, I heard the crickets too. I went with the Ottawa Senators hockey team because outside of Ottawa, nobody really cares or really pays attention to the Ottawa Senators. It doesn't matter how good they are. It doesn't matter how bad they are. It's just one of those teams that everyone goes, oh yeah, they do exist. And lately, that's what Mustafa Ali's career has pretty much been. He has been putting on banger matches. He's had 3 different or 4 different identity changes in the last 2 years. It's just one of those ones you're either a really big fan of Mustafa Ali or you just don't know who he is. Now, that's not a disrespectful comment towards Mustafa Ali. That is just me saying, here we are. This is what it is. We're gonna move on. Guys, before we move on with the rest of the video, if you have stayed this long, make sure you comment your favorite sports team. It could be NFL, NBA, MLB, English Premier League football, German league, rugby, cricket. Put it down in the comments. On to the next part of the video. We've got arguably one of the greatest superstars of all time in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, there are so many teams you could pick that are just legendary, teams that are recognized outside of just pro wrestling or outside of their sport. And that's the one thing with The Rock. The Rock doesn't need to identify with WWE anymore because his brand has grown so much greater than WWE. I had to think of a team that when you look at their logo, you're like, are they baseball or are they a representation of something bigger? And I went with the New York Yankees. Anywhere in the world, you can see that New York Yankees hat and you don't automatically think baseball. You automatically think New York. And when you think of The Rock, you think of Hollywood and action movies and everything else he has done outside of WWE. No disrespect to what The Rock did in WWE or what the Yankees do on a yearly basis in the MLB, but these two are iconically bigger than where they originally started. So The Rock is the New York Yankees. On to our next one, and we're going with LA Knight. Yeah, honestly, LA Knight has been around for so long. I had to think of a way to blend this because really his new character development in WWE comes from the past. Comes with not a checkered history, just a history that a lot of mainstream wrestling fans may not realize. LA Knight has been a champion around the world. But this is my thing. I chose the Las Vegas Knights. Now, the reason is because the Las Vegas Knights have such a back history. The one thing that people don't actually realize is Las Vegas has 2 teams. They also have the AHL team, the Henderson Silver Knights. And the blend between these two is that Vegas has always had good hockey when it comes to Henderson. And LA Knight has always been a top draw in the independents, in Impact, and was always able to carry on a crowd. He was a champion there. Henderson has always done well, but now they're on the big time, like Las Vegas is winning the Stanley Cup this year. LA Knight is a future champion. We know that. Yeah, we know he is a future champion, and I cannot wait to see what LA Knight can do. Now we have one of, if not the biggest superstars in WWE over the last 5 to 10 years in Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is a specific breed. We don't don't have that kind of off the cuff, crazy, I'm about to snap and beat everyone down in 2 seconds characters anymore. And Kevin Owens arguably does it the best. And I had to dig deep for a team that represents Kevin Owens' mentality. And I went with the 1970s Philadelphia Flyers. Now, if you guys know who the Bronx Street Bullies are, you know why I picked this. Some of the toughest and some of the best players in the NHL in the 70s played in Philly. You had to be a little cuckoo, but at the end of the day, you were still gonna win. And Kevin Owens has obviously got a couple of screws loose with this new character, and Kevin Owens is the 1970s Philadelphia Flyer. Now on to the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And this one, I wanted to make sure I represented Cody right, and I needed to find a team that arguably is very popular, very good, performs very well most of the time. But there's one thing this team I picked and Cody Rhodes have in common is they just can't win the big one. And I went with Tottenham Hotspur football team in the Premier League in England. Tell me I'm wrong. Tottenham Hotspur have some of the best players in the world. They can play some of the best football in the world, but there's always something that stops them from winning the big one. Whether it be the Champions League, the FA Cup, the Premier League, Tottenham Hotspur just can't do it. And right now, from what we've seen with Cody's return, Cody in AEW, Cody has never won the big one. And yes, okay, we know he will finally get the big one day, but that's like saying Tottenham's gonna get the big one day as well. Cody Rhodes is Tottenham Hotspur. Now we have Logan Paul. Logan Paul is one of the best performers in the WWE right now, and Triple H came out and said he has no business being as good as he is. But there's a problem. Outside of Logan's true fandom, the people he brings with him, there is a very minuscule amount of people that really want to get behind Logan Paul and see him succeed. And I found 2 teams that basically fall under that category. The 2 teams I decided on were the Cleveland Browns and the United States men's national soccer team. Because outside of Cleveland and outside of the US, nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Like, around the world, nobody cheers for Cleveland, and around the world, arguably everybody hates the US men's national team. It's just one of those things to do. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these 2 teams. All I'm saying is there's more negative around them than there is positive, and there is more negative around Logan Paul than there is positive. Hey, somebody in the comments might say you're absolutely wrong and prove me wrong, but at the end of the day, that's the first thing that came to mind is the Cleveland Browns, the U.S. men's national team, and Logan Paul are the same entity. On to Daniel Bryan. Now, I've never been the biggest fan of Daniel Bryan. I've always found that he's more of a professional wrestler than a sports entertainer, and I prefer the sports entertainment side. This does not take away from the fact that I will acknowledge that Daniel Bryan is one of the best to ever do it. He is clinical in the ring. He's won championships around the world, and he is one of those people that you know there is a championship in his sights sooner rather than later. Now, who does that sound like? For me, it's the Boston Red Sox. Boston Red Sox are one of the greatest teams in Major League Baseball. The Boston Red Sox are one of the greatest teams in Major League Baseball. They are one of the oldest. They are one of the most historically creative and best teams to change the game year in and year out with styles of play, bringing in big players, creating players, and scouting players that nobody else would look at. Daniel Bryan is the epitome of the Boston Red Sox because he can always win and he can always recreate himself, and that's what the Red Sox seem to do all the time. Yes, okay, they had a really long stint of not winning the championship, but at the end of the day, when you think of Major League Baseball, there's 3 teams you think of. You think of the New York Yankees, you think of the Red Sox, and you think of the Chicago Cubs. On to our tribal tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Now, I went with a very specific pick for this one, and the reason I made this pick for Roman is because of what the world has become with professional wrestling. You can go down the street and ask somebody to name 5 wrestlers. Those 5 wrestlers are probably going to be, if they have vast knowledge and historical knowledge, you're going to get John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, probably Bruno Sammartino, and potentially Triple H and The Undertaker. So there's 6. Oh, Ric Flair's there too. But in this day and age, if you are just on social media, you are new to professional wrestling, there is only one name you are really, 2 names you're going to say, John Cena and Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns is everywhere. He is the new big thing. You walk down the street and you ask someone to name one professional football team, there's 2 that are going to come to mind: the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. But when it comes to branding, it's the New England Patriots. Everyone knows the Patriots as well. And since we've already used the big franchise as Dallas Cowboys with John Cena, Roman Reigns wins it all the time, and that is the New England Patriots. They were dominant over the last 15 years. I can't remember how many Super Bowls they won, but I see the New England Patriots when I see Roman Reigns. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment. Please tell me if there was a hot take or 2 in there. Just leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm. I will be posting 4 days a week on this channel moving forward, and don't forget to follow me on all my socials. Guys, thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, and put that bell on. I will see you next time. Be good, people.